Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel. Thank you so much for joining me. I am, as always, your host, Tiger Paul Craven. I got my buddy in the back, Jordan Bowman, waiting to come on momentarily. But before we bring him on and to get into tonight's show, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. It would be much appreciated, and it would really help us out. Also, hit that like button. This is a live video. Helps us out on the live videos as we continue to try to grow this channel. We got 25 people in here already right now, already getting into the live chat section. Please go ahead and get your thoughts and comments in the live chat section. As you guys know, me and Jordan always take about 10-15 minutes at the end of every show and kind of just let you guys ask us questions and kind of just drive that part of the show, and we talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. It's been a great week. It's been a busy week. We got tons of stuff to talk about. Getting a little bit of a feel on the new coaching hires, bunch of recruiting stuff, early signing day coming up next week. Just a ton of Clemson news to talk about. So without further ado, let me bring on my buddy, Jordan Bowman. How you doing, Jordan?
Doing great, man. Just trying to finish the semester strong. It's been a really, really interesting past week or so. I mean, we talked about we talked about the early momentum that Clemson was getting from the new coaching hires, the commitments. Of course, we had another commitment since we last met. So we'll talk about that as well. A ton of transfer portal news to get into. It's really hard to even think about the bowl game. Like Clemson just had their first bowl practice today, and I'm head deep in transfer portal news, recruiting, and there's a lot of angst in the fan base. Obviously, they're considering the two portal misses that we've had so far. So, there's just a lot going on, and it's hard to keep track of it all.
Yeah, absolutely, man. A ton going on right now. Portal news, recruiting news. Everybody's ramping up to early signing day, which is, essentially in the world of college football that we currently live in 2023. It's basically signing day. It's no longer early signing day anymore. It's just really signing day, and then a lot of programs are done after the early signing period, and some programs add a couple more pieces, but this is where the bulk of the major recruits are signed, is early signing day. So we got a ton to talk about. But, before we kind of shift gears and get to recruiting and transfer portal and all that kind of stuff, I want to talk about a little bit more sure things that are going on with Clemson football right now. And that is our two brand new coaching hires. Everybody knows, it's been publicized all over media, that Dabo made a change at defensive end and offensive line coach. And it seems that our two hires, or Dabo's two hires, I should say, have gotten off to quite the running start. I mean, they hit the ground running. They literally got hired and immediately went on the recruiting trail, trying to recruit players, recruiting portal guys, just all over the place, learning new terminology, learning the playbook, all that sort of stuff. And then bowl practice started last Sunday. I think they had their first on-the-field practice this past Tuesday. And we had a couple clips come out of that because the media was allowed to be there for the first couple periods of practice. And one of the big ones I wanted to mention was our buddy Chris Rumpf, out there just absolutely chewing the edge guys, the defensive ends, a new one about how soft they were being on that particular drill. I don't know what the rest of the practice looked like. We just got a quick snapshot of that particular drill that they were doing. And he was getting into a couple guys' faces and calling them out and saying that soft stuff would not work here. And even, TJ Parker talked to the media after practice, and he mentioned that, Chris Rumpf, he brings, quite a bit of energy to the room. He's kind of an in-your-face type of guy. He's going to call you out. He's going to, give you some tough love when you need some tough love, and call you out when you need it. And he even said that Dabo Sweeney kind of warned the defensive end group that that's kind of how Chris Rump's style was going to be coming in. So they had a little bit of warning, but I'm sure that first practice kind of solidified that to them. What were your thoughts on that little short clip that we got to view, and just kind of the what TJ Parker had to say about him, and just your feelings on Chris Rump and his very short time that he's been back at Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the observations that from people who were at practice, I think the biggest thing is the presence that Chris Rumph has when he's coaching. Um, I think especially in comparison to his predecessor, it seems like Chris Rumph has been a lot more vocal, a lot more in your face, a lot more intense than maybe Lemansky Hall was at times. I think it definitely helps that Chris Rumph has had years of NFL experience, coaching, playing and coaching, and of course he's been at Clemson before. And I think just him coming back, he wanted to send a message and set the tone for how things are going to be. And I think that's something that this room has kind of missed. We haven't really seen that edge to the guys on the defensive end that we used to see. In the earlier days of, especially early in Dabo's tenure and into the national championship years. So I mean, it's so far, I think it's been really exciting. I saw AJ Hoffler tweet out, that clip, and he said, it's a little tough love and I love it, or something to that effect. Don't quote me on it. But I think that the guys are responding well to him so far. And I think that's a really good sign for that group heading forward. Because, I mean, we talk about some of the depth concerns in that group going into next year, but I still think there's guys that can play, and these aren't these aren't guys that were lowly recruited. I mean, we talk about TJ Parker all the time, but AJ Hoffler, 4-star guys, Zaire Patterson and Cade Denhoff were 4-star guys. Jaheim Lawson has gotten a lot of praise from the coaching staff. I mean, like this room isn't devoid of players, and I think that Chris Rumph is coming in, and I think he really wants to set the tone and mold these guys into more of what we used to see out of Clemson defensive ends in the past. So I think it's really exciting, and it seems like the players so far are responding well to it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Look, and I like one of the points you made there, and that is that Chris Rumph and really Matt Luke as well. We'll get into him in a second, but really those two guys are essentially just polar opposites of the guys that they're replacing on the Clemson coaching staff. Their styles, their approach to the game, the energy they bring, the intensity, if you will, that they coach their players and that they demand out of their players is a little bit different. So I'm sure there's an adjustment period there, but like you heard TJ Parker say, and you saw some guys tweet out, on X and all that stuff, supporting, what Chris Rumph was doing and saying that, they enjoyed that coaching style. TJ Parker said that the defensive ends kind of came together and was like, we're excited about this. We're ready for this kind of coaching. We think this will be good for us. So, I mean, look for guys to be developed. And you mentioned, all the highly recruited guys that we've had in that room that, just haven't seen the field. Did we miss on every single one of those guys, or were they just not being developed for whatever reason, or they just didn't respond to the voice that was in the room at the time? That remains to be seen. But I do think that Chris Rumph will get a little bit more out of this defensive end group. At least we need to hope so, because you speak to the depth issue there. We're hoping to, maybe add one out of the transfer portal as far as defensive end. We'll get into the transfer portal a little bit later into the show, but we hope to add one there, maybe a guy that can come and compete for snaps and be kind of a veteran presence in there with all the youth that's in there, or just not really the youth. I mean, there's guys that've been in the program for, 3+ years, but guys that don't have any real playing time experience on the field. So, we'll kind of see what he does as far as developing for those guys. But, hopefully we get a glimpse of it in this bowl game and get a little taste of what a Chris Rand defensive end group will look like for the years to come at Clemson.
Absolutely, and it's really exciting. And I think it's like I said, it's something that this group I think has needed. I mean, it felt like at times over the past few years that the play at that position especially just wasn't really up to snuff at times. And it wasn't like they weren't getting guys. They had some really talented players. Miles Murphy was one of the highest rated defensive ends Clemson's ever signed. I mean, it was a first round pick, but when you watched him play and you watched his development over the years, and you never really saw that progression, and more importantly, I don't think you ever really saw that fire and that edge out of him. Just using him as an example, and so I think that this is a really good opportunity for this group. And then we can talk about Matt Luke as well. I think he brings a similar style of coaching. He's going to be tough. He's going to demand a lot out of that group. He's a really from what I've been told, he's really about the fine details and the craft of playing offensive line. And I think that's something that you desperately have to be at that position, especially that you have to be someone who pays attention to the details and fine tuning the little things, because it's a difficult position to play. Anyone that's ever played offensive line, that is a really tough position. You're asked to do a lot, and when you don't do your job, it makes everybody else's job a million times harder. And so you have to be really about your craft and what you're doing. And I think that's something that Matt Luke has certainly, everything that, we've been told is that's what he's about. And he's going to teach and be, but he's going to give tough love, but he's also going to teach as well. So I think that's really good. And I think that's something that this group needed. And he has loads of experience doing it.
Absolutely, man. And look, we got to see a little bit more of, Matt Luke this week, because he did have an interview with the media. I think it was on Tuesday, about 20-25 minutes. He talked to the media about, kind of his decision-making, coming to Clemson and why he chose Clemson for that job to come out of his, hiatus or retirement from college football that he took for a couple years after that 2021 national championship at Georgia. And, he talked about, it just being the right time for him and his family, and some of the culture stuff at Clemson, the family atmosphere and just kind of admiring how Dabo Swinney has run his program from afar. So all that's good. But really, the stuff that matters is you look at Matt Luke's resume, man. I mean, he's done it all up and down the Southeast. He's got, tons of connections in recruiting. He's got a long list of guys that he has coached that have gone on to have successful careers in the league. He's coached a lot of all conference guys. He's just got a ton of experience. And I mean, really, me sitting there listening to his interview and just watching him talk to the media, you can just see a guy that truly loves to teach and coach college football, specifically the offensive line position. He's passionate for it. I mean, he's said to be an intense guy on the field. He's a guy that's going to demand quite a bit out of his offensive line group. And one of the things that stood out to me that he kept reiterating throughout his interview was, just being connected. He wanted his offensive line to be connected. And he said some phrase, not playing like 5 pennies, but playing like a nickel, or something to that degree. I probably messed up that little saying that he said, but I liked when he said it. It made a lot of sense to me, because the offensive line unit specifically, more than any other unit on the field, has to play cohesive football. And it's just something that, just looking from a fan's perspective and people like us that just watch every single game and study Clemson football and the players and all that stuff, you could see that the offensive line, what did we talk about this year? They just lack consistency. You never knew who was going to have, a good game or a decent game. it always came from different players, and it was never a cohesive 5 players, from start to finish. And just hearing him talk about stuff like that, and hearing Blake Miller come out and talk about just already Matt Luke's kind of tweaking some of the technique that they do and stuff like that. But just hearing him get up there and talk to the media for 20 to 25 minutes, you can tell that he's going to be able to recruit really well just based off his resume. And then just hearing him talk, I mean, you can see why players would want to play for him and respect him, not just because of his resume, but he has that you can see that players will be able to connect to him. And I just liked his message. I thought that he had a great first interview as the Clemson offensive line head coach, or Clemson offensive line coach. And hopefully we can keep that guy for many, many years, because if we can, I'm telling you, this Clemson offensive line will look a whole lot different in the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Absolutely. And time will tell. Again, you have to, for both of these coaches, it's a results oriented thing, and they're still going to be held to the same standard, if not a higher standard than their predecessors. And they're going to have to they're going to have to do their jobs, and they're going to have to get. I mean, this is, like we said, this room is. I mean, neither of their position groups are devoid of talent. Even with the offensive line, which has been a steady source of frustration for the fan base and for the staff and just for this football team in general. They're not devoid of they're not devoid of talented football players. Hasn't been the problem. And so I think they're going to have to. We're going to have to see that progression. And if anybody is going to do it, I think Matt Luke is the guy to do it, and Chris Rumpf. I think those are the guys to kind of help and flip those rooms a little bit and get them back, more to where we want them to be. But again, time will tell.
Yeah, absolutely. Time will tell. And look, I mean, as much as Clemson has struggled with the 2024 recruiting cycle on the offensive line, and I do think that had something to do with the change that Dabo decided to make, the 2023 offensive line recruiting class was, very good. It was a really good class. So, to your point, there is talent there. And if anyone can turn this offensive line into a productive, average to above average offensive line, I believe Matt Luke is the guy to do it. So I look forward to seeing what he does with the talent that's already in house. I already saw Big Mick in here mention that he's also not looking for a plug and play guy from the portal. We'll get into the portal obviously a little bit later, but I think that's important because he is looking to develop football players. And if he's evaluated this offensive line and he feels like he doesn't need a plug and play guy, then I'm gonna roll with what he thinks. And if he thinks he can turn these guys into an average to above average offensive line, then I think that's really all you can ask for in year one under Matt Luke as your offensive line coach.
Absolutely. And the name of the game is progression and development, and we need to see that. And I'm excited to see what he can do in one off season with this group, because they have players.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be fun to watch. It's going to be a blast to watch. But let's go ahead and shift gears. We've already mentioned it a couple times, so let's go ahead and get the transfer portal out of the way. Clemson has dipped their toes a couple times into the transfer portal already this season, this offseason, I should say, I guess. And we have struck out. We are 0 for 2 for offensive linemen that we offered in this portal cycle so far. So Allen Herron obviously went up to Penn State, visited, and basically committed on the spot. Essentially, just loved what he saw up there. Never made it down to Clemson. Didn't visit Clemson at all. And then Colin Rutledge was supposed to visit Clemson this past Saturday. Actually, got into a car accident, flipped his car, massive damage to his car, and all that. Didn't make it to Clemson. Was supposed to reschedule for sometime this week to come visit Clemson. Instead, he goes ahead, puts his commitment out there to Georgia Tech. What's kind of your thoughts on Clemson missing on those two guys? Did it surprise you at all? Should Clemson fans be alarmed? What's just your general thoughts on those two guys? And it's kind of interesting that we got neither one of them on campus before they committed to other schools. So it shows you how different the transfer portal recruiting is than kind of traditional recruiting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was a surprise that Clemson wound up with neither of them, and the fact that neither one of them made it to campus. I thought that was pretty disappointing. I can't, there's not a whole lot of sugarcoating it there. And I think the biggest thing is you had special connections to both of them. Alan Heron had a lot of had prior Clemson connections in his family, and Keelan Rutledge obviously played for Rick Stockstill, who the former head coach of Middle Tennessee State, was a longtime assistant at Clemson, had encouraged him to seek out Clemson. You had a really good connection there, and you couldn't even get him on campus. So I think that's pretty disappointing. Now, I will say that doesn't mean I'm alarmed per se. I don't think alarmed is the right answer, the right word to use. But I think disappointed is a good way to put it. But I'm disappointed in the moment because I think there's still a lot of time in this cycle. They have other guys they're looking at. Notably interior offensive lineman Addison Nichols from Tennessee, who just recently entered the portal, guy that they've been looking at. Austin Blask from Georgia as well. There's still options out there. And Clemson is still evaluating, talent. Now, I think what these two misses have showed me is that it's going to be a learning curve, I think, for Dabo and this staff, as far as the portal recruiting game is concerned. Because even the new hires, Chris Rumpf, he's been in the NFL for a while. He has not been, he has not gotten his feet wet in this portal recruiting game. And then, Matt Luke, obviously his last coaching year was 2021, which, the transfer portal was a thing. But
not like now.
It's only gotten more intense as the years have gone on. And he was at Georgia, where they were growing offensive linemen on trees. He didn't really have to dip his toes too much in there. And he had recruited extremely well, and they were developing at a high level. So there wasn't really a whole lot of reason to go and get guys in the portal. So I think this staff as a whole is going to, and especially Dabo, is going to have to learn that this is different than high school recruiting. As you mentioned, it's the strategy, the message that you're telling these recruits in the portal is a little bit different than what you would say to a 16, 17-year-old, because their priorities are different. What they're looking for is different in a school a lot of times. Now you can still preach your main message, and I'm not saying sacrifice what your program and what you stand for and all that, and you want to you want to let recruits know what you're about, and that has to stay consistent. But when you're talking to these kids, and especially when you're reaching out to them and getting them on campus, it's a different level of urgency, and it's a different message that you have to send, because these guys are, you have to think, the transfer portal era has created this environment where guys have to, they have to evaluate their options quickly when they enter, figure out what they want to do, and jump on it, because that spot might not be there tomorrow. So it's about, quickly, evaluating your options, getting on campus, seeing everything, and making a decision. And I think Clemson's kind of slow playing these guys. And I don't even want to say slow playing, because they did offer, but getting these guys on campus sooner. I think, being the first person, I think in the portal recruiting game, it's a little bit more important to get guys on campus first than maybe in, high school recruiting, where often it's it's a good thing to be the last team they visit, because a lot of these guys, are shutting it down. When if they find a place they like, they're going to jump on that offer.
Well, I
And
mean, you saw that with Alan Heron, right? Like, I
both of them.
mean,
I mean,
Clemson was kind of
yeah,
like, oh, we're gonna place ourselves kind of like they do in high school recruiting. They want that last visit, right? So they kind of place themselves, to go last, and before you know it, he went up to Penn State, and the rest is history. And
yep.
you didn't even truly get a real crack at him.
And I mean, that's disappointing. And you had an in, you had an in with that guy, and you had an in with Keelan Rutledge. And so I mean, that's the thing, is being more urgent. And I think is probably what this staff needs to do. When they find a guy they like, they need to work to get them on campus, and make sure that they are communicating what they can do, and what they're being honest about where their standing would be in the program if they were to go ahead and come here, and see if the goals align, and see if what they're looking for and what you're looking for can match. But you have to be able to do it with a quicker, I guess, a quicker timeline, and you have to communicate that message differently than you would a high school recruit. And that's the thing this staff is going to have to figure out how to do. So I get, and I think they can do it. I'm not saying they can't do that. So it's a learning game, and it's a learning curve, because and part of that is because you didn't really dip into the portal all that much in previous cycles. Now I understand in most instances why you didn't. But that's the reality. You haven't had the experience that some of these programs you're competing with do. And yeah, NIL plays a factor, as it always does. But I wouldn't say that those were the primary reasons why you lost out on those two guys. And so I think you have to be able to, you have to be able to incorporate NIL with your recruiting pitch.
Yeah.
But also, you have to make sure that what you offer as a program matches what they are looking for, and you have to be able to communicate that. You have to be able to communicate that clearly, concisely, and quickly. So again, that's going to be the difficult thing for this staff. Not difficult, but it's going to be the learning curve for the staff. And again, there's plenty of time. And there's still options out there, and more options as we get through bowl season and teams conclude their seasons, and more guys enter the portal. There will be options for Clemson to address their needs. So it's about learning what from these two misses, and applying it into the other the later guys that you pursue.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jordan, I think you bring up a lot of good points when it comes to the learning curve that this Clemson coaching staff is going to be on for, probably the rest of this transfer portal season. And, hopefully they learn fast and they figure it out. It is a completely different world than recruiting, regular, 16, 17, 18-year-olds in high school. Obviously their priorities are different. They're going to want playing time. They're going to want, probably some significant NIL money, at least if they're, a highly rated transfer portal guys. So, all of those things are very different from, kind of high school recruiting type deals. And I mean, to be honest, this is new territory for the Clemson Tigers. They haven't, gone aggressively out into the portal like they're doing this year and actually targeting people. We know that the Clemson coaching staff wants, at least one or two offensive linemen through the portal. They're gonna this won't be the last two that they offer. They're going to continue to look at guys and go after guys. And something that I heard Jason Priester mention is that Clemson likes to go about their portal stuff a little bit under the radar, uh, specifically because of kind of what happened with Allen. Right, Allen, they offered Allen. Clemson's the first person to offer that guy, and then everybody and their mother started offering this guy, and then Penn State ended up with him. I don't even know if Penn State ever heard of him before Clemson offered him. but they offered him and they got him. So, they do try to do this stuff kind of, more on the down low. I don't know if that's going to continue to work for them. I really don't know what the answer is to really start consistently landing the portal people that you truly want. I'm sure it's more of an art than it is a science, and I'm sure they'll figure it out as they go. But you see them offering a couple more offensive line. Do you see them landing one or two more offensive linemen in the portal? That seems to be what they're going for. Are they going to continue to pursue that?
I mean, I think so, and I just it would be really disappointing to miss on two and say, oh well, Packer bags, we tried.
Yeah,
That would be a pretty not just disappointing.
yeah,
That just would not be. They can't afford to do what they've done in previous cycles. It's like, okay, we found one or two guys that we really really like. We'll swing for those guys, and then if we don't do it, then all right, we'll just pack our bags and we'll try again next year. Like that's not what this program can't do that. That's not how they can afford to operate moving forward. And I know there's a lot of people that have kind of adopted this mindset of what we don't really need to, we don't really need to use the portal like you think we do. I think there's some argument to, hey, I mean, we need to just continue doing things like we do it, but I don't know how you can look at the results on the field these last few years and the trend and the reasons why this team has struggled over the last few years and say we don't really need to dip and get somebody that can help our team now, an experienced player that would fill a hole at a position of need and really help this team, because I don't know how you could make that argument at this point.
Yeah.
So I think this. I'm not saying Clemson needs to go out and get 10 transfers. They don't need to be Colorado or Florida State or these teams that are Ole Miss, who are just going heavy in the portal every year and loading up on guys. Clemson recruits well enough, and they have a philosophy that's attractive to high school kids that you would be sacrificing by doing that. And so that's not what I'm advocating for. But I do think you have to be able to, when you have to be able to consistently get guys at positions of need when you need it. It shouldn't be a struggle to find a guy that fits that fits your needs and fits what you're looking for, because that's only going to hurt you moving forward. And so we'll see what they do. Again, plenty of time in the cycle. They have other guys that they've been looking at. It's not like they locked in on those two guys and now they're just they're stuck. They have guys they're looking at, and there will be more that are entering the portal as we get into bowl season. And so we'll see how it shakes out. I still tend to think that they land a couple of guys.
I think that
I don't see any way they don't.
Yeah, I think they really do want a guy or two that can come in and really contribute and help this team. And like you mentioned, after bowl season, there will be more transfers to come. Maybe on some of these playoff teams, maybe on some of these teams in New Year's Six bowls where guys are gonna stick with their team through bowl season and then enter the transfer portal after bowl season. So, just because we don't have them right now, don't mean that we can't get them and they won't come. So I think the coaching staff will continue to try to get guys along the offensive line. What do you think about other positions? We've talked about defensive end a little bit and the lack of depth that we have there. Do you think Clemson's going to go out and try to target an edge guy to kind of pair with TJ Parker, or are they going to roll the dice with the guys they got in the locker room right now?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's the big question. I think that's a little less clear because there hasn't been the reported offers and the reported names to look out for. I do, tend to think that Clemson is looking and evaluating their options right now and seeing who's out there. Defensive end is such a premium position in the transfer portal. It is. I will say it is really tough to really land a guy that of a high caliber that can help you, especially at a program like Clemson. Like it's going to be hard to find guys that can that fit what you're looking for. Someone is honking outside. I don't know if you can hear that.
I can hear it a little bit. Yeah.
I have
Somebody,
no idea what's going on.
somebody is unhappy out there about something.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it's obnoxious.
Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, it's I think we could use an edge guy that could come in and contribute real snaps for this defensive end position, because there's guys there, and we talked about the talent that's there, and we talked about you know how good we think Chris Rump's going to be and how he's going to be able to develop guys. But at the end of the day, you're putting a lot on some of those young guys, or guys that have a lack of experience, a lack of playing time. I think it would be a good thing for Clemson to go out and really get a guy that could come in and play some starting snaps for them, or just even be a consistent contributor there. Of a more veteran guy that has experience in college football. I do think that could be beneficial for this Clemson team. Will they do it? Again, I don't know, but I would like to see Clemson take maybe 3, 4, maybe even 5 transfers. Depending on the position, depending on the scholarship situation. Nothing like 15 to 20 or 30 or 40 like some of these other college football teams. But I think 3, 4, 5 guys. Depending on how the scholarships and signing day and stuff goes. I think that's a reasonable thing for Clemson fans to want to see out of this coaching staff when it comes to the transfer portal.
Yeah, and I see some people in the chat talking about potentially getting somebody from the high school ranks. Yeah, I don't see that as a possibility. They don't really have anybody out there at this point, and they had the number that they were looking for this class. They got there too. I mean, I know David Ojabwe leaving kind of changes the calculus, but I think realistically, if you were to add another defensive end, you would want it to be a portal guy with the youth that you have in that room right now, and inexperience. You don't really have any proven guys outside of TJ. So I just no, I don't, I don't see the benefit of doing that, going that route. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see. I think Clemson definitely takes an offense alignment or two out of the portal. I hope to see them take a defensive end out of the portal. Before we transition from the portal, any other positions that you could possibly see Clemson taking? Wide receiver, a linebacker, any other position group that you could see Clemson maybe looking into the portal for either a depth guy or something like that?
Yeah, not really. I think there are positions that if I were in that position, in a position to make decisions, I would probably look at. But so far, it seems like Dabo is pretty. He's been open about searching for offensive linemen. He's been kind of quiet about defensive end. He hasn't really said one way or the other. I do think that they are evaluating that. And I think it's possible that a guy that really fits what they're looking for hasn't entered the portal yet. And so they're still kind of keeping things on the low, maybe communicating with some guys that may be options, but they don't really want to push for anything right now. So I think that's a real possibility. But anywhere else, receiver, quarterback, defensive back, I don't. It doesn't seem like that's something that they are evaluating or looking at right now. So,
yeah.
I think offensive line. I think you should expect a couple takes, one or two takes, and I think defensive end is a possibility. But outside of that, I really don't expect much else. Which I think that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
I would do it different. I would do it differently personally, but I wouldn't be that upset. And I think what a lot of fans are looking. I think a lot of things will kind of ease the fan base's minds when that first portal commitment happens, because it's like, okay, we actually can land a kid out of the portal that's not
Yeah.
Bear Bryant's grandson or a former 5-star, that that had already played here. Like, that's like, I think that's really what this fan base needs. And so again, there's a lot of time. It's going to be, I think we're going to have to, as a fan base, are going to have to be, patient with this. And, there might be some frustrations, especially watching the in-state rival going and landing a bunch of kids over their recruiting week, their big portal weekend, whatever they had last weekend. So I do think there is some anxiousness to just land somebody. And but I do think there, some patience will have to be shown here, because I'm kind of resigned to the fact that Dabo is going to do this, how he's going to do it, and it may not be in the time frame that maybe people are hoping for. But I still think it's going to happen. And I still think that Clemson will make some needed additions to the portal, in the portal.
Yeah, absolutely. Look,
maybe to the portal as well. I mean, who knows?
There could still be a couple guys that leave in the portal. I wouldn't think there'd be too many more. Maybe, I don't know, maybe one or two more after the bowl game, but I don't really see a huge exodus coming for Clemson. I think we've already, kind of weathered that storm with the guys that we talked about last week that already hit the portal for Clemson. So I think that's pretty much over. But, I think you make a lot of good points. Clemson's the fan level, the fan base's level of anxiety will probably ease quite a bit when we get that first real transfer, right? And by real transfer, not a former quarterback that left and came back, or the great grandson of Bear Bryant, right? So when we land our first real portal, I do think that makes a lot of sense that the Clemson fan base might breathe somewhat of a sigh of relief, just knowing that, okay, it finally happened. We can stop talking about it. Clemson's got a portal player. But it could, you could be right in that Clemson may only take 2 to 3 guys this portal cycle. Maybe 2 offensive linemen and a defensive end. Who knows? Who knows what it shakes out to be? But I do think that they will take someone. But I think we'll leave all the portal talk there for now, and we'll make a transition here. We got 45 people in the live chat right now watching. Shout out to you guys, man. Thank you guys so much for showing up and supporting me and Jordan here. Again, we do this show every Thursday at 7 p.m. We enjoy all of you guys coming out, getting into the comments section, asking us questions, getting in your little spats in the comment section that we read as we're doing our show. It's a great thing. You guys make this show what it is because you show up. So thank you guys so much. Hit that like button for us. And let's go ahead and transition into our next topic here, Jordan, and that is going to be recruiting. As everybody knows, man, there's a ton of news here. Jordan, go ahead and pull up your notes, your spreadsheets. Jordan is the recruiting guru right here on this particular show, anyway. But there's a ton to talk about with recruiting. A couple gets for Clemson here recently in the past couple days. Some stuff out there that could land possibly on signing day. We'll see. We'll talk about it here shortly. Early signing day is going to be Wednesday, December 20th. So this coming Wednesday, that should give us plenty of fodder for next Thursday's show, I'm sure. But let's go ahead and get into recruiting. Staying with the theme that we've been talking about in the transfer portal, let's talk about the 2024 offensive line cycle. Everybody knows we already landed Ronan O'Connell earlier in the cycle, right? Out there, we have Elijah Thurman, who is, I think, crystal balled to Clemson right now, according to 247 Sports. And then today, we just offered Mason Wade, a current Duke commit. So Clemson offers him. He is currently committed to Duke. And so what are your thoughts on the offensive line guys? What what's your reaction for Clemson offering that Duke guy? Is that just them still trying to get to their three because three was kind of their number for offensive line in this recruiting class? Are they still trying to get to that three number, or just what was your evaluation of why we kind of came in late and offered three-star Mason Wade, 6'5", 290 pounds out of Virginia, current Duke commit?
Well, it is actually, at this point, it's looking like they wanted to land four because, of course, they also, flipped App State, former App State commit Watson Young,
That's right.
from
That's
Daniel
right.
High School, Clemson legacy. So
yeah, Clemson fans aren't going to love that, but he's a good player.
Honestly, and I said this on last show. I honestly that's not one of the worst takes I've seen. I think the kid can play, and there's a lot of sentiment that he would have been a really good offensive lineman, for App really early on. And I think he's a guy that I think especially with the now that you feel like you have a guy with a proven development track record in Matt Luke, I think he's a guy that could definitely turn Watson into a really good player. And looking at his film and his tape, honestly, it's pretty good. So I mean, and like I said on last show, I'm not mad at that take. And then, of course, you mentioned Elijah Thurman is set to make his announcement on signing day. Tigers feel like they're in really good position. I tend to think they are still in really good position for him. And then, of course, today they offered Mason. He goes by Moose Wade from Loudoun Valley High School in I think it's Purcellville,
Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia. I think this is a sign that they feel like they need to up their numbers a little bit. I don't think this affects their outlook on adding one or two pieces in the transfer portal. Contrary to what maybe some of the fans think, I still think they plan to take guys. I don't think they see this as a replacement for getting a portal guy. But he's a guy that has expressed a lot of interest in Clemson, and it's a guy they've kept in constant contact with. Honestly, I think he probably projects on the inside. He's 6'5", 290, kind of sort of a tweener, but I think he'll probably play on the inside. Honestly, when I watch his film, I think he's got pretty good footwork. And honestly, with how Duke has recruited, had been recruiting under Mike Elko, and their evaluations in the recruiting cycle, I think it's kind of weird to say, but if they liked him and they saw something in him, I think there's a lot there. And again, I really liked his I liked his tape. He's got pretty good size. So I think you probably don't want him to be under 300, but of course he'll be in a he'll have a year in the strength program, and you'll get him when 6'5", 310, 315. I think that would be a really, really good a guy to have him on the inside. So it looks like they're looking to try to take four. Like I said, I still feel good about where they sit with Elijah Thurman, and he's set to announce on signing day next week. So we'll see how that goes.
Fingers crossed.
Clemson could have four guys. Four guys, after having one for most of this cycle, or at least most of the season. So
we didn't think we were going to land an offensive lineman there for a while, and then Ronan O'Connell came on board, and then last week we talked about Watson Young and all that stuff. But hopefully we get Elijah Thurman on signing day. I'm anticipating that he's going to sign with Clemson, announce Clemson on signing day. I'd be a little surprised if he didn't. But I mean, Mason Wade, or Moose Wade, as you called him, makes a lot of sense. Duke lost their head coach to Texas A&M. So it makes sense that he's kind of reevaluating that commitment to Duke, and we will absolutely take all the help we can get along the offensive line. He's got a big frame. He could obviously put on 20, 25 pounds more and kind of become that inside guy for us. And if Matt Luke likes him and wants to recruit him, then I'm all game for it. So still some noise happening in the 2024 recruiting class as far as the offensive line. Transitioning to linebackers a little bit. We got a heated battle going on right now with Bradley Shaw out of Hoover, Alabama, 6'1", 220-pound guy. Heated battle between Arkansas and Clemson. I think he had comments earlier this week talking about, he compares them every night. It's a heated battle. They're super close. He doesn't know who he's going to choose. So that's an interesting kind of battle. We're looking for one more linebacker. I thought it was interesting that we got a CJ Cooper Taylor coming in this weekend. He's not officially offered, but they are bringing him in this weekend. He's out of Maryland, 6'3", 230-pound guy. Is that a nod to we may not be getting Shaw, or what's kind of your take on them bringing him in this weekend and what that kind of means for the Bradley Shaw recruitment?
Yeah, so I mean, we've maintained, and I'm sure you've read on other sites as well, that Clemson has looked as I think the number has always been is intended to be 3 guys. So I would say this, bringing in CJ is kind of a indicator of where they feel in that Bradley Shaw recruitment. I don't know, things can change, but. I will say about CJ, he's a teammate of Darian Mayo, a guy who hasn't played a ton of football. Really, really great size for the position. 6'3", 220. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, that's kind of what you're looking for. Ideal. And honestly, he's really instinctive when you put on his film. And I think he's a guy that could project to be a lot better than his star ranking would indicate, because he hasn't played a lot of football yet. I believe this is his first year, so he's going to have some developing to do. It's going to be a guy that you might not see right away, but I would expect Clemson, him to leave Clemson with that offer, and I think he will be the guy that Clemson ends up taking. We'll see. Maybe things change overnight with Bradley Shaw, but I do think that Arkansas is kind of the team that's trending in that recruitment right now. So we'll see how that goes. Again, it's recruiting. Things are fluid. Things can change.
That's right. Literally overnight.
Literally overnight. Yeah. So I'll say that, but I do think that bringing in CJ is kind of an indicator, and I think he's a guy that. It's kind of been, they've been in communications with him for a while, and I think that's kind of that offer is something he's been waiting for, and I would feel pretty good about them landing him if should he leave Clemson with that offer this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's shift gears. What else you got for us in recruiting? I know we had a couple commits. I see everybody in there talking about some sunglasses that Jason Priester put out, and multiple pairs. So hit me with what else we got for recruiting.
Yeah. So I did want to, Clemson did get a commitment in the 2025 class, earlier in the week in Marquise Henderson, guy from Belton-Honia Path. If you guys are familiar with the Anderson area, it's kind of tucked away, about 20 minutes. I think Belton is about 20 minutes from Anderson, 20 minutes east-ish from Anderson, but it's kind of in that area. It's really, really small town, really kind of backwoods in a way, and not in a bad way, but y'all, I mean, anyone who's lived in South Carolina, y'all know, how some of those areas are. But Belton-Honia Path, he's a guy that's when you put on the tape, I don't want to exaggerate, but he is one of the best playmakers in the 2025 class, just with the ball in his hands. One of the best pure playmakers in this class. I, the speed, the physicality. Honestly, he runs with a lot more fury than maybe you would expect for a guy his size. But really, it's the speed, the breakaway speed that really jumps off the page. It is real stuff. It is elite. He plays running back and corner for Belton Honeypath, but I think Clemson likes him a lot at slot. I think that's where he ultimately projects, and I think that's where Clemson likes him. And I think this is a really big get. This is one of I think he's the guy that's going to be a fast riser. I think one of the things with South Carolina kids is obviously it's under recruited. If you're not going to these camps and constantly getting eyes on you, you're not going to get a whole lot of love from the recruiting services, right. Especially if you're at a skill position. But I think this is I think this is a great take, and it's a really big win. I'm pretty pleased with how quick Clemson has been with the in-state takes in the 2025 class so far. It seems like they're trying to make more of an effort after this past cycle. You lose out on 3 offensive linemen that you wanted to the in-state rival. That's just something that you can't afford to happen. Cycle over cycle. So I think
you can't let that happen if you're Clemson in the state of South Carolina. You can't let that continue.
Yeah, and Clemson, as much as they've won, as much as they've won, and the players that they've had, they've never won without recruiting and swinging a big stick in the state of South Carolina. Like that's something really both programs in state have to be able to do if they want to be successful. And when Clemson was winning, we talk about the guys that they got from Georgia and Florida and Alabama, but the backbone of those teams, those national championship teams, were South Carolina kids. Yeah. Guys like Ben Boulware, Shaq Lawson, like Hunter Renfro. Like you can't stress the importance of in-state recruiting. I know South Carolina isn't a super talent-rich state, but there is more than enough of guys you can get that are difference makers that can help you. And I think Marquise Henderson is one of them. I definitely think he's one of them, and he's an elite playmaker. I'm really excited. I was surprised that South Carolina was so it was kind of slow playing and hadn't offered him yet. But hey, we'll take it. We'll take it. He's a guy that comes from a Gamecock family, so I think that's two commits in your 2025 class that had ties to South Carolina and guys that conventional wisdom would say would end up in in Columbia that you were able to get. And I think that's a way to kind of get back your footing in the state as far as in-state recruiting. So, and John Smith mentions, I forgot. Yeah. Kendall Joseph is from BHB. Yeah. I love Kendall. So, I mean, that school has put out some talented players.
John Smith said he graduated from there.
Oh, nice.
He lives in Belton. He graduated from there.
That's dope. Yeah, that school is. I mean, they've won a lot over the years, and they put out some really talented players. So, and Marquise Henderson is just the next in line. But this is a really great get. I really
absolutely.
Probably, arguably, my favorite take in the class, just because I think he's got that potential at the next level to be a really, really dynamic football player. And I think the recruiting services will catch up to him eventually. But when you put on the tape, like
he's fast, man.
He looks like you're watching a 5-star, athlete. So we'll see what he does, and obviously he'll have to develop maybe the nuances of playing receiver and all that. That's something you have to learn that position. But he's an outstanding, just with the football in his hands, and you can never have too many of those guys that can just make plays with the ball in their hand.
Yeah, just an athlete, man. Get him in open space and let him work. Let them work. That stuff comes naturally to people like that, man.
Yeah.
And it's things that you can't teach as a coach, right? You can teach guys route running and how to get open and stuff like that, but once they got the ball in their hand, it's just being an athlete and being creative, and you know that dude's definitely got it, and he's super fast, man. Glad to see Clemson got him. You know, got to start hitting on these in-state guys, man. Like I said, you can't be Clemson and taking a back seat to South Carolina. The Gamecocks in our own state. That ain't gonna work.
Nope.
That ain't gonna work at all. So
Clemson has never won at any decent level, ignoring the state of South Carolina.
That's right, man. Gotta recruit those hometown guys, man. They're difference makers, as we've seen in the past. You mentioned just a handful of them, that have been, huge difference makers for the Tigers. So glad to see South Carolina missed out on them, and to us, goes the spoils, man. We get them. It's gonna be good, man. Excited for that commitment.
Absolutely. And just checking my notes, I don't have anything else. I already talked about Addison Nichols and Austin Blask in the transfer portal, Bradley Shaw, CJ Cooper Taylor, Elijah Thurman. Yeah, again, I still feel good about Elijah Thurman. Go Tigers with a good question. He asked me about Cameron Strong, the in-state defensive back that Clemson has been, heavily involved with so far in the 2025 cycle. I haven't been. I'm going to be honest. I haven't had a chance to really dive into his film yet. So I will give you a more in-depth. I'll give you a more in-depth opinion analysis of what of his game and what I would think about Clemson landing him. But he's a guy that has expressed a lot of interest to Clemson, and they've definitely reciprocated. And I think things are moving pretty strong in Clemson's direction so far. So, but I will get back to you and give a more educated take, because I haven't watched a ton of his film yet.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. So that's kind of the recruiting update for tonight. Like I said, hopefully we get Elijah Thurman and Moose Wade. Hopefully he commits to the Tigers as well. We'll see how that goes, and then obviously the linebacker situation that we talked about with Bradley Shaw. Your feelings are we probably miss out on Bradley Shaw, right?
If you had to right now, 50 foot, from where we are and at this current moment, I would say, I would lean towards Arkansas being the choice. But we'll see. I think that I don't think things are over there quite yet, but you're getting closer to crunch time, and I think Arkansas is trending in that recruitment right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously we'll have CJ Cooper Taylor come in this weekend, and I'm assuming he'll probably end up with the offer pretty quickly. And
I tend to think so.
If we miss out on Bradley Shaw, he'll definitely be. It seems to be Clemson's heading towards that's their first option to replace the recruitment of Bradley Shaw. So things are looking in the right direction there. Recruiting is off and running. I'm sure we'll have a ton more to talk about next week, because early signing day kicks off on Wednesday, the 20th, and our show will be the following day. So we'll have tons to talk about in recruiting for the next show. And we'll probably be breaking down the bowl game in the weeks to come as well. Bowl game's on the 29th, correct?
Yes, the 29th.
29th at noon. Nooner in Jacksonville.
When's the last time Clemson's had a nooner bowl game?
Noon bowl game? I don't know, dude.
Shoot. Someone's gonna have to help me. It wasn't. None of them were during the playoff years. And the Cheez-It Bowl in 21 was a night game. The Orange Bowl last year was a night game.
Mm-hmm.
Was the Russell Athletic Bowl? Was that a? I don't think that was a. I think that might have been an afternoon.
Yeah, that was probably. I don't think it was a noon game, but that was probably an afternoon game.
Yeah, I don't think they would have stuck that matchup in the noon slot.
No, I don't think so.
Um,
But regardless, we got a nooner on our hands, December 29th. So that game is still a couple weeks away. Next week will obviously be heavy recruiting again. We'll talk about the guys that we signed in the early recruiting cycle. Talk a little bit more about the Gator Bowl, and then really on the 28th, we'll be doing basically a pregame show. Basically, it'll be
yeah,
right before the Gator Bowl. We'll be breaking it down, making our picks, doing all that kind of stuff. So that's what you guys got to look forward to for the next couple of weeks. But before we turn it over to the comment section, Jordan, I just want to do because Dabo had an interview this week and kind of talked to the media about the Gator Bowl and who's in, who's out, based off of injuries and all of that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to kind of run down our injury list heading into bowl prep. Now, this is obviously subject to change one way or another. Either guy get healthy, or a guy doesn't, or we lose more based off of injuries in the practice. So, just a quick rundown, just to get everybody spun up on who is out for bowl prep to this point. Sheridan Jones is going to be out. For his hip, and he's still struggling with migraines that apparently have been plaguing him for most of the season. He missed that game with a migraine
yep.
that he got pregame earlier in the season. Jaden Lucas will be out with a shoulder. Brandon Strozier will be as unknown whether he'll be in or out. We'll see more on him. Cole Turner's out, obviously still. Antonio Williams expected to play for the Tigers. So somebody we ain't seen in a long time. As you guys know, the bowl rule is it doesn't count towards your 4-game red shirt. So Antonio Williams is eligible for a medical red shirt this season. So he can play in the bowl game. It won't affect his medical red shirt should he choose to take that medical red shirt in any way. So look forward to seeing Antonio Williams back on the field playing for the Tigers, see what he's got, get him back into the fold. Marcus Tate obviously went out with that knee injury. He's possible for the bowl game. We'll see how healthy he is. I'm sure if he's still kind of, up and down, they'll probably just hold him instead of playing him in the bowl game and keep him healthy so he's healthy for spring instead of chancing it. But we'll see what they do there. Tink Kelly, he's not 100%, but they're hopeful that he can play in the bowl game. I know they're trying to work him in at corner a little bit because we don't really have too many corners heading into the bowl game. I think our starters are going to be AJ Terrell and
I wish it was AJ Terrell.
No, excuse me, not AJ. Avion Terrell.
Yeah.
Avion Terrell and who else is going to start?
Shelton Lewis.
Shelton Lewis and Avion Terrell. Those will be our two starters heading into the bowl game. We don't got much after that.
Yep. Khalil Barnes at nickel. And
Khalil Barnes will be at nickel.
But RJ Mickens is planning to play. So I know
play in the bowl game.
He's still debating on whether to go pro. I don't believe there were some rumors about him potentially transferring, but it seems like he's going to decide between going pro and staying at Clemson.
That's what I expected out of basically him and Makuba, but Makuba obviously entered the transfer portal, which really surprised me. I expected to lose RJ Mickens and Andrew Makuba, but I expected to lose both of those via entering the NFL draft, not the portal.
Right.
So interesting how those two played out. RJ Mickens, I'm assuming, is probably going to enter his name in the draft, but maybe not. I wouldn't be sad if he didn't. I can tell you that it'd be nice to have him back.
I see. I mean, things seem to be from what I've seen, things seem to be trending in RJ Mickens potentially coming back.
Hey, that'd be great, man.
So I don't. That's not set in stone, and it's still fluid. He's still making a decision, but I think there's some sentiment that Clemson feels like he's leaning towards coming back. But we'll see. That would be a massive that would be a massive get. John Sarian asked about Tyler Venables. Yeah, I believe he is back. I do think they are expecting him to be able to play and go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that'll be a nice shot in the arm for the safety room, because
That'll be huge.
the numbers aren't great right now.
Yeah, for the strong suit to be kind of our defensive backfield all year, and how well those guys played, especially down the stretch. We're kind of slim pickings heading into the bowl game, but
Oh yeah,
that's just kind of how it works, man. That's college football.
Mark Stoops was really funny in the Gator Bowl coaches I don't know whether a little Zoom call that they had when Dabo was talking about kind of the numbers at corner and at defensive back right now. And he said like, I might have to play. Dabo was like, I might have to play corner. And then Mark Stoops like, well, I've seen you run. You can do it.
Yeah, you can do it. You'll be just fine.
I've seen the way you run down that hill.
Yeah.
I think you could do it. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I think Dabo could probably run out there for a series.
Yeah,
they're probably gonna get burned, but he could be out there.
Yeah, totally.
Oh man, Tiggs gets here and says Tiger Paul starting as center. That's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually played center when I played football in high school.
Good
that
times.
was my position. That was my position. And you're going to start for wide receiver for us, Jordan. So me and you are suiting up for the Clemson Tigers in the Gator Bowl, apparently.
Yeah. We are much needed.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I don't know how much help I will be. You guys better not kill me and say that I missed a bunch of blocks because I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
But no.
Doing my best.
Doing my best, man.
Same here. I haven't ran a route in about 6 years, so that'll be fun. But we'll find something out. We'll find something.
Man. The depth chart's going to be interesting for the Tigers coming into the bowl game, but we'll get more into that probably next week and the following week about depth chart, and I'm sure it'll change based off of guys getting healthy, or unfortunately guys getting banged up in bowl practice. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe the salt air of the beach will do them some good, and we'll get a couple more guys back. Who knows?
Yeah, totally. All right. Let's officially turn it over to you guys. I started a couple of questions that I wanted to hit. Jermaine earlier, he was really complimentary. He said, "Always enjoy listening to my favorite dynamic duo. You guys are awesome." Thank you, man. My question is, do you think Clemson is making a mistake by not getting a quarterback in the portal? And I think that's a great question. Dabo pretty much shot down the potential idea that maybe some people had of Clemson going out and getting a transfer portal guy. I made it clear, last week, if I were in that position, I think I would certainly be considering, bringing in somebody, not necessarily the guy that I need to start or I know is going to start, but a guy that would provide some competition. And again, that's hard because a lot of the quarterbacks in the portal are not looking to be a guy that's okay, maybe you'll start. Well, we'll come in and compete for the job and see how it goes.
Yeah,
that's a tough ask, and there's not a ton of those guys out there that would be willing to do that. Most quarterbacks in the portal are looking for assurances, and it's like, listen, because a lot of these guys are guys that are on their last or next to last year of eligibility. They've been sitting behind an incumbent starter for a while or something like that, or maybe their coach left and they were starting before and they're used to starting. So they're going to be looking for assurances of like, hey, if I come here and you invest in and I invest my time and resources and money to come over here, I need to know that I'm going to be the one, calling the shots and doing the signal calling. So that's the difficult thing. And I guess I would be interested to see how much they considered it. I would definitely, but it would definitely be something. If I were able to do it in a perfect world, I think I would.
Yeah,
but there are a lot of reasons why they may or may not have, and so I do think they want to put their eggs in Cade's basket, so to speak.
Yeah, they're bought in on it.
So we'll see. only time will tell. And again, it's really hard, to say whether they did or didn't now. And by the time we find out whether it is the right decision, it'll be hindsight, and you can't say, well, because it's easy to say, after the fact, but it's definitely harder in the moment when you're trying to make that decision, because it's a balancing act. Because if you bring a guy in, does that force another guy to leave? Does Chris Vezina decide to hit the portal?
Exactly.
There are a lot of things that that can happen when you do that. So I don't want to say yes or no. But from my personal opinion, from my personal view, and what I would do in that situation, which is, again, I've never been a head coach of a major Power 5 football program,
right.
so take my opinion with a grain of salt. I would definitely consider it. And if I found a guy that was willing to come in and compete and push Cade, I would certainly do.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that, Jordan. And I think it's a tough situation because you kind of mentioned if you bring in a guy, does Chris Vezina go, and then you're kind of putting yourself in maybe a worse situation by bringing in a guy that maybe has a year, maybe two left, and that causes your young guy, your depth to leave. So, man, college football is a weird place, man. It's tough to manage a roster. I would love to see them get somebody that would kind of push Cade, a more veteran guy that could really push him. And and if he wins, he starts. If he doesn't, then Cade starts. But Dabo kind of laid out his QB plan, and it's an interesting one for sure. Especially some of the stuff that we've heard about Chris Vezina and how he really needed a lot of developing when he got here. That he wasn't as far along as they anticipated. He wasn't coming on maybe as quickly as they anticipated that he would. Maybe some of that has changed in recent months. I don't know. But they're kind of, Dabo kind of laid out his plan, and it's Cade is QB1, Chris Vezina is QB2, Trent Pierman's going to be QB3, and Paul Tyson will be break glass. If all else fails, break this glass, and he'll come out. He's more of a player coach. He's not really going to, be, a quarterback. He's obviously, Dabo said he's going to, stay in shape and keep his arm ready if he's needed, but it's going to be an emergency only basis for Paul Tyson to be more of a player's coach. So really we're heading into the season with three quarterbacks. Again,
not ideal.
Hopefully Cade develops like we hope he's going to, and continues to get better and stays healthy. But it's a less than ideal situation in my opinion. But at the same time, I do understand the nuances of probably keeping a roster together and the tough decisions that coaches got to make with, do I bring in a guy, and does that cause like you say, other transfers? So I don't know that there's no right decision here. I don't know. I'm sure one will appear. Obviously, hindsight's always 20/20, so it'll be very clear in about this time next year. It'll be very clear whether Clemson made the right decision or not. But in the moment, who knows, man? It's crazy. It's crazy, but
John asked about Antonio Williams. He says, "You expecting Dabo?" excuse me, Dabo and Riley to start Antonio Williams or give him a lot of snaps in the bowl. Hasn't played in quite a while, but we aren't loaded at wide receiver either. Yeah, and I think you have to. I mean, who are you going to put out? Who are you going to throw out there? I mean, if you really want to start, like Hamp Green and Brandon Spector and those guys, I mean, you might. I mean, who knows? But that's not ideal. I think you go and put your best guys out there. I mean, there's not really much to lose at this point.
Nope.
And it's not like you're trying to preserve a red shirt. I think you do play Antonio because he does. He is someone that the defense has to account for, and gives you a little bit of it gives Cade a little bit of a safety blanket because now he's not going to have Bo Collins out there.
Yeah.
And so you need to have that guy. And we haven't gotten to see a whole lot of Tyler Brown and Antonio Williams on the field together, which has kind of been disappointing because you felt like that's
that's going to be cool to see.
There. Yeah, so I think that'll give you a really good, nice opportunity. Adam Randall he's gonna have a really big opportunity in this game. because more of the onus is going to be him as sort of that outside guy. So we'll see what he's made of. But yeah, you're not really loaded at receiver, and the numbers aren't great. Troy Stalato's been banged up a lot of the years, so how much is he going to be able to go? You're gonna have to play your best guys and hope for the best. We talked about running Hannafin, and he won't be playing.
Nope.
And so, or he's out for bowl prep. Noble Johnson, we haven't seen much of him. Maybe you see more of him in this game because of because you don't have to worry about burning the red shirt. But so we'll see.
Yeah.
But I think you have to play him. As far as Antonio Williams, I think you have to play him. He's one of your best players on offense.
Yeah, for sure, especially if he's healthy, right? I mean,
yeah.
We don't know how healthy he is right now. And I guess that could equate to him being on somewhat of a pitch count. But I think if they roll him out there, he's going to be healthy enough to play the amount of snaps that are necessary to win the game. And we're going to need him to win this game for sure. And I think there's going to be opportunities. We'll get more into it as we talk about the Gator Bowl and break it down a little bit more in later episodes. But there's going to be some opportunities in the passing game. Kentucky's not real great as far as defending the pass goes.
Right.
So there'll be opportunities there, and frankly, I just can't wait to see Antonio Williams and Tyler Brown finally on the field together. And you mentioned Adam Randall. That dude can carve out quite a role for himself if he balls out in this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heading into next season, I mean, he'll definitely have some momentum heading into spring and the off season and next season if he really emerges and plays kind of how he was hyped up before his first injury and the first surgery that he had.
I mean, he's going to need. I mean, I think he's going to need that moment, and you would feel good, a lot better about the wide receiver situation going forward. Knowing you're bringing in Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore as well, guys who I think have a chance to be early impact guys. I mean, Bryant Wesco is TJ Moore won't be an early enrollee, but still think he's a guy that can come in and play early. And Bryant Wesco obviously will be. So, there's going to be some opportunity for guys to move up, maybe move down. There's going to be some competition in that room. So Randall getting a head start if he has a big game, I think that'd be good for him. Because I really want him to succeed because you look at him and the tools and everything that he possesses. He's a very gifted football player. It's just you just want to see him put it all together.
Yep.
Let me see. I had one more starred comment from Swinga864. I like that name. He says, I think the biggest question is who will be the center for Clemson next year? Do we even have a real option at center? Well, I mean, we have options.
Yeah.
I'll say that much. We have options. I think that's something that they're going to have to evaluate. Obviously, you're not going to have Will Putnam next year.
Nope.
And so that's going to be the thing. Is Ryan Linthicum, the guy you brought in to be the next man up at center? Is he going to take that next step under Matt Luke? Who knows? I mean, I think that things will start to take shape a little bit more as we get in. Does Harris Sewell, or play center? Like who?
Maybe.
Dude, he's
Ryan Linthicum.
Yeah. That's the question. I really don't know, and there doesn't seem to be a consensus. I don't think the staff knows. So we'll see how that goes. But I
do know one thing though. They just paid a guy a big pile of money to figure it out though, and I think he is more than capable of figuring it out for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we'll leave that to Matt Luke. Who it's going to be, I can't wait to see. But it's definitely not clear cut right now of who's going to emerge.
And what's funny? The last time we were wondering about who was going to be the center in heading into the season was 2021. Do you remember who Clemson opened up with in that 2021 season?
Unfortunately, I do remember, and it was it was the most brutal of brutal games, and we will be opening up with somewhat of a similar opponent, if you
Yeah.
will, in the 2024 season.
Yeah, man. I don't like that parallel, but
I don't either.
you,
Hopefully, the 2.0 version goes far better
yeah,
for the Clemson offense. Now, the
absolutely.
Clemson defense can do the exact same thing that they did in that game. 100% okay with that. Clemson offense, though, we need them to do a 180 of what they did in that game.
Yeah, 100%. And hopefully you're not. Hopefully you're not playing a generational front like you did in that 2021.
Yeah, Jesus, man. Think about the
This could be
names.
a really good one, but hopefully it's. I don't think it's going to be the
names that were on that Georgia defensive line.
Yeah,
they're all in the NFL right now, dude.
Yeah,
and they're balling out in the NFL.
Almost all of them are on the Philadelphia Eagles.
Somehow the Philadelphia Eagles just drafted the 2021 Georgia defensive line. I don't even know how that happens because they were a good team already. So I don't know how they amassed all these draft picks to get all these guys, but they just said, yeah, that Georgia defensive line over there, we just want all those guys. Yep, no, just all of them. Yep, we'll take them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Working out pretty well for them.
But yeah, that is something they will have to figure out, and interested to see how that kind of shakes out. Hey, and who was on that staff in that the opposing staff in 2021?
I do.
Matt Luke.
He will now be on the other sideline
Yep.
in the 2024 showdown. That's gonna be a huge opener, man. That's gonna be fun to talk about in the off season.
Oh, totally. It's lots of storylines, and it's a big game for obvious reasons. Always, anytime Clemson plays Georgia, it's a big game.
I wish we played more, honestly.
Me too. I do. As much as their fan base can get on, especially when if you've been around them. I feel for my Tiger fans that that live in Georgia and or
especially the past couple years, man.
Yeah, past couple of years have been a trip, but
that's rough.
Yeah. And but it's always. But again, it is an important rivalry. It always has been. For both schools, as far as from a recruiting standpoint, status standpoint. It's a game I do wish was played more.
Oh yeah.
But we played 5 times in the next 10 years, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, the two schools are doing their part to keep it, somewhat a regular game that happens.
And I mean, we'll see how future realignment maybe changes that equation, and obviously but as of now, I think it's 5 in the next 10 years. So it's gonna be fun.
I mean, it's a great game to get played every other year.
Yep. Let me see, what else are you guys talking about? Like Mike, I did want to give them a shout out. So I'm glad you brought this up. Like Mike says, how about that men's soccer team? Looks like Dabo needs to catch up to soccer. Well, really proud of them. Were y'all able to catch any highlights of the game? I didn't just catch highlights. I watched the game. That was what a performance, really. I just really proud of that program, what Mike Noonan has done. He's etched himself into, probably etched himself in the Clemson Mount Rushmore as far as athletic coaches, winning 2 national championships in 3 years, kind of like what our other football coach did.
Yeah.
It really was incredible. Usman Silla, what a career, and ending his career with a goal in his last game. That was cool to see. And man, I feel for Notre Dame fans because they can't seem to escape Clemson these days. In a lot of sports. I mean, between Clemson eliminated them in the College Cup semifinal in 2021.
Yeah,
we beat them on the football field this year. Beat them in the College Cup final this year. What else? I think they eliminated them in the ACC championship.
They did.
It's a pretty. Notre Dame and Clemson have had some bouts in multiple sports over the years. So, that is something. That is something. But no, but seriously, shout out to the men's soccer team. That was a great performance. They had to make it interesting at the end. I was about to pee my pants when they scored that late penalty goal, and they had that free kick with like 7 seconds left, but they were able to hold on and win the school's 8th national championship, which puts them, I think, now at an 8-5 lead over the other big school in South Carolina as far as national championships across all NCAA sports. So pretty cool, pretty nice.
Yeah, man. It was funny because Dabo in his presser talked about Clemson football taking the soccer fields when the big football facility was kind of built, way back several years ago now. And maybe coach not being so happy about that, but it all came full circle, and everything benefited from Clemson football getting better. Obviously, you see the money and the facilities being built, and dude, 2 national championships in 3 years. You love to see it, man. And I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. So Dabo better get with it, or he's going to have 3, and Dabo's only going to have 2. So,
Yeah, that's he's catching up. I mean, the soccer program already has 4 titles, so that they're back.
There you go. Yeah,
they're back to the most accomplished program at the school as far as national championships are concerned. So, hey, they've won 2 since the football team has last won theirs. So they're sending a message like, y'all need to step it up. I mean, we're still nationally relevant, going to College Cup finals, winning national championships. Y'all need to get back to doing that.
Absolutely.
So, but seriously, again, can't say enough about this men's soccer team. And they've been really, they've been the pride of the school in a lot of ways as of late. Just a really, really good program. And Mike Noonan is just another guy who's been here a long time. Him and Dabo are kind of spearheaded Clemson athletics for the better part of a decade. So, just really proud of that program. Let's see, what else are we talking about? In other news, Big Dex measures out as PFF. It measures out by PFF to be the best defender in the NFL this year. Good for recruiting for sure. And you know what's crazy about that, John, is he's not even top 10 in Pro Bowl votes right now.
That's crazy, dude. That's crazy.
Insane.
That's disrespectful, man. Disrespectful.
Let me tell you about Dexter Lawrence has been the best defensive lineman in the NFL for the past 2 years. Just straight up. They're like, you look at it as far as what he does as a nose tackle. Mm-hmm. It's pretty historic numbers when you look at like the amount of pressures he creates, the amount of double teams he faces. Like, there's nobody doing it at a 0-1 tech. They're not doing it at the level that he is doing it. He's been incredible, and he's really, the light bulb has really come on the last couple of years. And, they made a little bit of a deep, with Brian Daboll, there came a lot of forgetting defensive coordinator's name. They made a lot of defensive changes to the scheme. And, Dex was a really good player, early on in his career, but it seemed like they didn't really know, how to use his skill sets right. But he really is a generational talent as far as what he brings at nose. He's been incredible. So he definitely deserves more love. It sucks the Giants aren't, well, I don't care for the Giants, but it definitely hurts when the Giants aren't particularly great that he doesn't get a lot of,
Yeah, they're just not he doesn't play for a good team. So, it's just, you kind of get lost in the shuffle of, you're playing for a bad team. Yeah, you're a great player, but, I think that's probably a big part of it. If he played for, one of the, more contender teams, higher publicized teams, just from a competitive standpoint, he would probably get a lot more love when it came to Pro Bowl voting and stuff like that. But, and not to mention, he plays nose tackle. So that's not the most glamorous of the defensive line positions, if you will.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of love, but when you turn on the tape and you see what he does, like how he affects the game,
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible, and he's only gotten better. But yeah, he deserves a lot more love. He's one of the best football players in the league right now. Let me see. Oh, the hard take gets in. He says, "Sorry, I was late, guys. Good to see you, man." He says, "I hope you are all having a blessed holiday season." Well, I am. So thank you, hard take, and to you as well. I know you're overseas, and we hope you are enjoying yours as well.
Yeah, man.
Um,
Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by, man. You're always here supporting the show. So hope you get to spend some time with family and friends and enjoy it.
let me see. Tiger T says Taj didn't break out till his third year. I think Cade will break out too with better O line play and healthy receivers. I mean, one can only hope, and I do think you saw some improvements at points in the season when when the offensive line was playing cohesive, when he had a complementary run game. He was capable. I mean, I think the performances against Georgia Tech and North Carolina. I mean, those weren't great defenses, but you were able to run the ball, and he looked a lot better. He definitely wasn't as mistake prone for sure. And you took some of when you can take the pressure off. And so the hope is that coming into
Yeah.
next year, you don't feel like you have to hide him as much, because it definitely felt like a lot of times this year they got the coaching staff, the offensive coaching staff got to a point where it's like, okay, we just need to call it's in. We need to call this game to in a way that he's not going to mess things up, and we're going to make the reads extremely simple. We're going to run the football, and just don't ask him to do too much. Maybe and and that's not where you want him to be. That's not what you recruit 5-star guys to do, and it'd be that, but you kind of had to, because he wasn't there yet from a decision making standpoint. Just understanding the nuances of the position. So I mean, you got to hope that he makes a big jump this year. Another year with Garrett Riley maybe, and also hopefully that the new coaching hire, really the new coaching hire at offensive line, makes that jump with that group, and hopefully the offense as a whole around Cade improves, and that way he improves as well. So we'll see how
Yeah.
that goes.
It definitely wasn't all okay, but he's got a ton to improve on. And
Yeah,
I'm sure the coaches have already had meetings with him and already laid out his plan and the things that he must improve on. Field vision. Not staring down receivers. One read type stuff. That's all stuff we mentioned. After watching almost every single Clemson game this year, so he's got his stuff to work on. But at the end of the day, when you think back and you look at it, I mean, it was his first year as a starter. He did get in, behind DJ the year before, a little bit, but we talked about the terrible situations that he got put in throughout that season, and it just didn't really translate to real reps for him. So now he's got a full season of starting, a full season of reps, full season of terrible mistakes and some great plays as well. And let's just head into spring and hope that he continues to develop and makes that third year jump. That we all hope that he does. Because we're all in. The coaching staff is all in on Cade, so we have to assume that he's going to continue to develop and make that jump. Um,
absolutely. One can only hope.
Absolutely.
We have, and again, it's one of those things where it's like you at this point you have to be like, well, I'll believe it when I see it. But I do think that there have been steps made in the right direction, and I do think one should expect a jump from year one to year two of at least Cade being the starter year one to year two. But again, yeah, but you gotta see it. Gotta see it first. Anything else? Big Load says, Big Load in the building. Good to see you, man. Happy holidays to you, good people. Get money, and break bread. Yes, absolutely. Especially the first part.
That's right. Yeah, get money. Primarily get money. Absolutely. That's the most expensive time of year right here.
Oh, yes, it
End
is.
of the season. But it's always fun. It's always good, man. Spending time with friends, family, all that good stuff. Hope you guys are having a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas and all that good stuff, and spending time with your kids and your family and your wife and your husbands or whoever you got, man. Cherish the time. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to come. So enjoy the time while you got it. And you can't take the money with you. So spend it on the people you love.
My ring light just keeps wanting to fall over on me. It's been a crazy day.
Hey.
Last thing I wanted to let's hit on something bowl related, since we've hardly talked about it to this point. John talks about most important in and out notice for the bowl is Ray Davis. Yeah, not opting out yet. That's the key for Kentucky. Yeah, and it seemed like he was not planning to play before the bowl games were announced. But since the bowl matchup wasn't announced, it seems like Kentucky's going to be up to play this game.
Yeah, man, they're ready.
Which, hey, that's a compliment to the Tiger Paw logo, and just
there you go.
Like Clemson has not had the season that any of us had hoped or expected, but hey, that Tiger Paw still carries weight, and when people see it, it's like we want to play them, and we think we consider it a big game. So that's exciting, and hey, I would rather play Kentucky with their best players, because it's always, I would rather play any team with their best players, because it's always if you win without their best players, it's like, oh well, that's kind of doesn't really count. It's opt out, win, all of that, and if you lose, it's pretty embarrassing. So I'd rather play them with all their guys healthy. It'd be nice to see the old Devin Leary again, familiar foe, and that'll be an interesting matchup. I think Clemson I think they were a 7.5 point favorite at one point. I think when it
opened up,
Ray Davis was going to play. I think that dropped down to 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
So
5.5 or 4.5 or something like it's at now. But yeah, man, it definitely looks like Kentucky's going to be up for the game, and that hopefully that jacks up this Clemson team as well, and they get up for the game and they're ready to play. But it is cool to see that Tiger Paw still throws around weight in college football, even though Clemson hasn't done. Hasn't performed up to our standards in the past couple of years. But that Tiger Paw still means something to a lot of people out there, because Kentucky was ready to be without a bunch of players, and then all of a sudden they're playing the Clemson Tigers, and everybody's like, well, maybe I will play. Maybe I get a shot at Clemson. So good stuff, man. Good stuff for the Tigers. We definitely gotta get more bowl talk on our next show. So don't worry, guys. We'll talk more the Gator Bowl, the matchup between the Kentucky Wildcats and the Clemson Tigers. That's coming up on the 29th. So we're still a couple weeks away. We don't want to give away all our stuff on the bowl game quite yet. We still got a couple weeks to get through. So next week will be we'll start off with recruiting and the early signing period, and then we'll kind of end the show with a little bit of our bowl preview and bowl talk. And then the next week, our show will be the day before kickoff. So that'll be all about the bowl game. So, hopefully you guys will be up for that. Again, this show is every Thursday at 7 p.m. If you're not a regular, me and Jordan do this show called the All In Show right here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel every Thursday at 7 p.m. We got any more comments in here we want to highlight, Jordan?
No, I think we're good. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. It's been really awesome doing this show for, man, almost 2 seasons now.
Yeah, man.
Time has flown, man. We've been doing this a while. I'm starting to think we're kind of becoming seasoned veterans. Seems like, I know it seemed like when we started it, we were just kind of like, oh, well, we'll figure this out. We don't really know what we're doing, but
That's right. Yeah.
It's really been great, doing this show with you for almost 2 years now, and it's been you guys in the comment section and all our viewers, all of those who comment. You guys have been great, and it's really awesome that you guys care what we have to say and interact. And we're all Clemson fans, and it's a really good platform for us all to just talk about our Tigers. I think there's kind of a distinct there's not a huge Clemson presence on YouTube. Overall, I mean, there's some great accounts out there. I mean, we Pigskin Pete, Bobby Durkins,
Yeah.
a lot of there are great Clemson content creators out there, but I just there's not as many as maybe some people would think, and so I'm glad that we've been able to kind of have our own little space and to occupy, and you guys continue to show up and support us. So again, we really greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Just to kind of piggyback on what Jordan said, reiterate what he said, man. Love you guys, man. It truly is a blessing to come on here and just chop it up and talk about Clemson football, man. I've absolutely enjoyed doing this for it's been well over a year now. I guess next episode will be our 50th episode of the All In Show, which is pretty crazy to think about.
Wild.
So that's 50 weeks since we've been doing this kind of since we named it the All In Show. Basically, we were doing a show before that, but since we named it the All In Show, and it became kind of just me and Jordan here doing this together, which has been super awesome. It's been one of the greatest things, and we've kind of grown, and now we got our regulars that come in here all the time, and they appreciate you guys, man. That's all I'm trying to say. I really do appreciate you guys. It's humbling to see all the people that come in here every week and really contribute to this channel in the comment section and support us. And I really do appreciate that. It shows that maybe me and Jordan kind of know what we're doing a little bit. We're starting to figure it out. A year and a half in at this point.
Yeah.
So we're getting a little bit better at what we're doing. Hard Take gets in with a $5 super sticker, man. Thank you so much, dude. You're always in here supporting the channel through super chats, super stickers, and just commenting. Really do appreciate it. But to all of you out there, I really do hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, happy holidays. I hope you get to enjoy time with your family, enjoy some time off work. If you got vacation, take it, and just get away for a little bit. And then hopefully we get to see our Tigers beat down another SEC foe come the 29th of December.
Absolutely. All right.
All right, guys. Well, I think that'll do it. Jordan, you got anything else for the people?
Nah, man. I'm good. Great show.
All right. Another one in the books. That is number 49 of the All In Show in the books. We'll be back here next Thursday at 7 p.m. Don't miss it. It'll be directly following early signing day, which will be the day prior. So come hang out with us next Thursday, 7 p.m. We'll talk about early signing day, all the people that we landed, hopefully not people we missed out on, and then we'll end with the bowl game a little bit and chop it up with you guys. But until next time, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.